NASCAR Insight fans, Shane Carlson here with you for the final edition of NASCAR Insight, final review video. There's nothing to preview anymore now that the season is done. So it's kind of a bittersweet time, lot of racing action happened this year. It was a really fun time for me to be able to do this and watch from the armchair of my recliner and kind of bring the news to you guys. If you guys ever listened or read my blog, it was a fun experience for me, and I'm gonna do it again next year for sure. And I'm gonna keep bringing you guys stuff every Thursday. Either if it's a slow news week, I might write a short essay about just, I don't know, some random things going around the garage area, or just bring you up to date on the latest off-season news. I just want to thank you guys. Nobody said all my stuff was terrible and to stop doing it, so I'm gonna keep doing it until somebody says you're terrible at it, or any of that stuff. But no, I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to share my passion with you guys, and hopefully you got a laugh or two out of it along the way, because I sure had a blast. But now I get to look forward to a long, slow, cold, and snowy winter here. So I don't really know what I'm going to do, so I'm going to have to find myself a hobby. But anyway, last weekend at Homestead was championship weekend, final race of the year for the Camping World Trucks Nationwide Series and Sprint Cup Series. And so there were titles to be handed out. And in the Camping World Truck Series, all Matt Crafton had to do to win the championship was literally just start his engine and start the race, and he clinched the championship. The 13-year veteran won one race this year at Kansas Speedway, but overall, I think the way he won this championship was just by pure consistency. In the 22 race schedule, he scored 19 top 10s. And at one point, I think he scored 16 straight to start the season. So that's a pretty incredible feat right there. Just the way he went about this, he never got too high, never got too low. And I think being 37 years old, I think he's able to keep an even keel a lot more than the younger guys. And I think that helped him out a lot. And, he won a championship that way. So good to see the veteran get his first championship. And actually, in the race, he finished 21st, which was his worst finish of the year by far. He made contact with another truck with 2 to go and just limped around the final lap with a flat left front tire and finished 21st. So, and he completed every single lap of the season. He never didn't finish a race. And as I mentioned before, 21st was his worst position, or worst finish, and so I think any driver will take that, especially when you were as consistent as he was over the course of the season. Kyle Busch actually won the race in Homestead. Came down to a green-white checkered. They went through 3 green-white checkered restarts, but he was able to get the best of them on the last one there and get his 25th career NASCAR Camping World Truck Series win. And with that, he clinched the Owners' Championship for the 51 truck. And so that was that. And, looking forward to next year, it's just a trend in the Camping World Truck Series is there's never been a repeat champion. There's been drivers that win multiple championships, but they've never repeated. And I think James Buescher was the closest. He came in 3rd this year. He won the 2012 championship. Came in 3rd in points this season. But I think it's just kind of a jinx, and it'll be interesting to see how that works out next year. I know the Camping World Truck Series is really interesting because there's a lot of diversity in this series. There's a lot of young talent, and actually this season there were 6 drivers under the age of 21 to win a race, and 5 of them were rookies. And so there's really a big difference, a big disparity between the veterans of the sport like Ron Hornaday Jr., who's got 4 championships, and guys like, Jeb Burton and Rookie of the Year Ryan Blaney. And it's just super cool to see those guys race each other. And, the veterans cut the rookies some slack, and the young guys give the veterans slack like they deserve. And that's just really cool to see that stuff play out. And so now kind of moving on to the Nationwide Series, Sam Hornish Jr. was second coming into the race in points. He trailed Austin Dillon by 8 points. And Austin Dillon hadn't won a race yet this season. And Sam Hornish Jr. had won one race. And that came at Las Vegas earlier this summer. So basically, Austin Dillon started out the race. Well, let's start with Sam Hornish Jr. Sam Hornish Jr. did what he needed to do pretty much the whole race, whole weekend actually. He won the pole, so he started first. He led laps early, had a strong car, was running top 5 at the worst when he wasn't leading. But he was out there trying to get the most points, get maximum points, try to win the race to win the championship, and that's what he did. Austin Dillon, on the other hand, struggled early. His car was terrible. He had a terribly handling car, and just couldn't move forward. He started 11th, and started 12th and finished 11th. And Sam Hornish Jr. finished 8th. But Sam Hornish Jr. was in a position to win this championship until a late race caution with 16 to go. The caution, for whatever reason, took 12 laps to clean up, and so there was about 4 or 5 laps to go there, 4 or 5 more green flag laps to be run, and Sam Hornish Jr. just couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't pass. He needed to pass 3 cars, and he couldn't do it because he didn't have enough time. And so the caution that was called was it wasn't controversial, but the lengthiness of the caution was questionable because I felt like it didn't need to take 12 green flag laps and put them into the caution laps and give the drivers only 5 more laps to duel it out for a championship. If anything, I think if they needed to clean the track for that long, they should have just red flagged the race, conserved the laps, and given the drivers a chance to duel it out between themselves. So that's just kind of my opinion on it. But that late caution just killed Sam Hornish Jr. And it allowed Austin Dillon to win his first nationwide championship. And actually, Austin Dillon didn't even win a race this season. But he did what he needed to do, kind of like Matt Crafton. He was just consistent all year long. And I know he feels like he let a few races through his hands and that he could have won. So, that'll be interesting to see Austin Dillon moving up to the Cup Series next year. This was his last full-time nationwide series year. And so Austin Dillon is moving up to Cup next year with Richard Childress Racing in the 3 car. He won it in the 3. He won his Camping World Truck Series title in the 3 truck, and he won his nationwide title in the 3 car. Just to further extend the legacy of number 3 in NASCAR. But as for Sam Hornish Jr., he has no plans for 2014. Roger Penske said he would not be back with him in the Nationwide Series, and actually Penske thinks that Hornish needs to be in the Cup Series. He thinks he's that good and that talented, and I agree with that, but I want to see him succeed also. I want to see him get in a quality ride, and I think he'll do that. I think he's too good to not be in a race car for somebody next year. So I'm pretty confident he'll land a ride. But as for the actual race in Homestead, Brad Keselowski kind of stole the show there. He won his 7th nationwide race of the year. And he was able to help secure Roger Penske the owner's title for the Nationwide Series. And also so the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, they were in Homestead on Sunday to settle the 10-race chase for the Cup, final race of the year. And actually, Matt Kenseth came into the race second in points, 28 points behind Jimmy Johnson after a terrible race in Phoenix the week before. Jimmy Johnson needed to finish just 23rd or better, and he would clinch his 6th championship. And Matt Kenseth, much like Sam Hornish Jr. did in the Nationwide Series, did what he had to do all weekend long. Kenseth won the pole, was fast in practice, was leading the race early. He led the most laps, and he just fell one position short. He finished second in the race. I feel like he probably had the best car out there all night. Just fell one spot short. But Jimmy Johnson, had another day like Jimmy Johnson has. He had some problems. He ran into some people. Some people ran into him. But he was able to keep his head, focused on the Ultimate Championship, and he was able to do that. He finished 19 points ahead of Matt Kenseth in the chase for the championship, and that was Jimmy Johnson's 6th NASCAR Sprint Cup Series title, his 6th title in the past 8 years. And if people didn't already think Jimmy Johnson was the best driver ever to strap in to the seat of a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series car, he is certainly in that conversation now. 66 career wins, 6 championships, trails only Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt, respectively, in that category. And, it's hard to compare different eras of racing, but when Petty was racing, there was only about 4 or 5 cars that could legitimately go out and win a race every weekend. Dale Earnhardt, the number increased a little bit. Probably 8 to 10 cars could go out and win a race on any given weekend. This era of racing is the closest it has ever been. There's more cars. There's 20 to 25 cars now that can go out and win a race any weekend of the year. And yet Jimmy Johnson continually does it every year. He goes out and wins multiple races in the toughest competition NASCAR has ever seen. And that's a lot. That's saying a lot. And his competitors feel the same way. He gets that respect from them, and those competitors also think that Jimmy Johnson is the greatest thing they have ever, the greatest person they've ever seen get behind the wheel. And for me, I'm gonna put him in that category. I think he is the greatest driver of all time. Just because of that, just because of the era he's racing in, what he's able to continually get out of his crew and out of that car, even if it's not a winning car, if it's a 10th place car, he'll make it a 5th place car, and that's just amazing to see. And a lot of people don't appreciate what they're seeing right now, just because they think, oh, it's so boring to see the same guy go out and win every race, or close to it at least. But over the years, I've grown to appreciate what Jimmy Johnson is doing, because this has never been done before, ever. I mean, he won 5 championships in a row. The most that had ever been done before is 3. And to see this greatness is just totally amazing. I almost can't understand how he does it. I know he's got that great team, and chemistry is a big part of it too. But I'm just kind of rambling now about how good Jimmy Johnson is. I mean, there's a million reasons that Jimmy Johnson wins races. But as for the actual race in Homestead, Denny Hamlin broke into victory lane for the first time in 2013. And actually, he had a terrible year except for this one race. He was injured earlier in the season in California and had a fractured spinal disc in his back, and so he had to sit out of the car for a few weeks, and that just killed his season. Never really felt comfortable. Never really had a winning car up until this weekend, and so that'll, I'm sure, help him moving into 2014 to get back on track. Nothing like winning in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. So winning cures a lot of things. As for that, that's kind of all I got for the review of Homestead-Miami Speedway. I hope you guys all got to enjoy some racing this year. It was great. It was great to be able to share some of it with you and some of my opinions on it. And I just I look forward to every Thursday when I get to do this, and this is definitely my passion, and this is definitely what I want to do. I want to be around racing. And it doesn't feel like a job at all. I don't want it to feel like a job, and it doesn't, so that's good. But now it's kind of time to go into hibernation mode. It's going to be a long off season. As I mentioned before, I'm going to keep posting things on the blog on Thursday. On Thursdays, I might do some short essay things. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'll keep you up to date on all your NASCAR needs. And I'd look for February when the Daytona 500 rolls into town. I would encourage you guys to look forward to I'm going to overhaul the NASCAR Insight blog. I might move it to a website. I'm not sure yet. I don't really have all these plans figured out yet. But I'm planning on doing some new things with the website or the blog. Maybe make it into a website, make it a little more user friendly for you guys. And so just look forward to that this winter and these coming months. And I hope you guys find a hobby. I'm going to have to find another hobby to do to take up some time here. So with that, I will see you guys in February. And yeah, Daytona 500 preview video will probably be the next video I make. I'm going to take some time off from making the videos, but I'll keep writing for you guys. Check out the blog at nascarinsight.wordpress.com. See you guys.